In this video, we're going to focus on operations associated with binary numbers. How do you add two binary numbers together? How do you subtract them? How do you multiply them? How do you divide two binary numbers? So let's start with the basics. What's 0 plus 0? 0 plus 0 is 0. Now what about 1 plus 0? How can we add those two binary numbers? 1 plus 0 is 1. Now there's some other basic rules to go over. What about 1 plus 1? In this case, we need to carry over. 1 plus 1 is going to be 0, but you need to carry over a 1. And so you get 1, 0. So basically, 1, 0 has the decimal equivalent of 2. Now what if you have 3 1s? How can you add this? In this case, it's going to be 1, and you carry over a 1. Let's write that here. And so you get 1, 1. So if you have 3 1s in a single column, it's going to produce an output of 1, 1. Now let's work on some example problems. Go ahead and add these two binary numbers. 1, 0, 1, 0 plus 1, 0, 0, 1. Now the first thing you should do is you should line up these numbers. And then add up the numbers column by column. So here we have 0 plus 1, which is 1. In the next column we have 1 plus 0, which is also 1. And then for the third column, 0 plus 1, that's 0 plus 0 rather, which is 0. And then for the last one, it's 1 plus 1, which is going to be, based on the last two examples, 0, but you need to carry over a 1, so you get 1, 0. Now, to check the work, let's convert each binary number into a decimal number. So let's separate this into columns. So this is 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. So 1, 0, 1, 0 is going to have the decimal equivalent of, this is going to be 8 plus 2 because it's in this column. 8 plus 2 is 10. So that's the decimal equivalent of 1, 0, 1, 0. Here we have an 8 and a 1. So 8 plus 1 is 9. 10 plus 9 is 19. So here we have a 16 plus a 2 plus a 1. So that adds up to 19. And so we can see that we have the right answer. So this is our answer right here. So that's how you can add two binary numbers. Now let's go ahead and try another example. Go ahead and add these two binary numbers. Feel free to pause the video if you want to try this example. So let's start with the column on the right side. 0 plus 1 is going to be 1. And then in the next column we have 1 plus 0, which is 1. And then it's 1 plus 1, which is going to be a 0, but we need to carry over a 1. Now for the fourth column, it's 1 plus 0 plus 0, which will equal 1. And then we have 0 plus 1, which is 1. And then next is 1 plus 1, which is 0, but carry over a 1 to the next column, which will give us 1. So now let's confirm our answer. But let's separate everything into columns, just like we did before. So this is going to be 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and 64. So let's get the decimal equivalent of the first number. So we have a 32 plus a 4 plus a 2. 32 plus 4 is 36, plus 2, that's 38. And then for the next one, we have a 32 plus 16, which is 48. 48 plus 4 is 52, plus 1, that's going to be 53. Now 8 plus 3 is 11, carry over the 1. 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 1, that's 9. So this should equal 91. So we have a 64 plus 16, so that's 80, plus 8, that's 88, plus 2 is 90, plus 1, 91. So we can see that we do indeed get the right answer. And so now you know how to add binary numbers. As you can see, it's not very difficult as long as you follow the process. So make sure you remember these two things. When adding 1 plus 1, you're going to get a 0, but you need to carry over a 1 to the next column. And so the end result is that you get 1, 0. And if you're adding 3 ones together, it's going to be 1, but you carry over another 1. And so instead of getting 1, 0, you get 1, 1. And if you remember these two things, you can easily add two binary numbers together. For the sake of practice, let's work on another example. So go ahead and add these numbers. So feel free to take a minute, pause the video, and work on this example problem. So let's start from the first column on the right side and work our way towards the left. 1 plus 1, we know that it's going to give us 0, but we need to carry over a 1 to the next column. 1 plus 0 is going to be 1. And then in the third column, we have 1 plus 1, which is 0, but we got to carry over a 1. Now for the fourth column, we have 3 ones. Do you remember what we need to do if we encounter this situation? If you have 3 ones in a single column, it's going to give you a 1 for that column, but you need to carry over another 1 to the next column. And so 1 plus 0 plus 1, we could ignore the 0, and so it's the same as 1 plus 1, which will give us a 0 for that column, but we got to carry over a 1. And for the last column, we have 3 ones again, so it's going to produce a 1 for that column, but we need to carry over another 1 for the next column. So 1 plus nothing is going to give us 1. And so this here is our final answer. But as always, let's confirm it. So let's begin by drawing lines to separate the columns from each other. And then let's write the powers of 2. 2 to the 0 is 1, 2 to the 1 is 2, 2 squared is 4, 2 to the third power is 8, 2 to the fourth power is 16, 2 to the fifth is 32, and 2 to the sixth is 64. So let's convert the first binary number into its decimal equivalent. So we have a 32 plus 8. 32 plus 8 is 40, plus 4, that's 44, plus 1, so that's a total of 45. Next, we have a 1 for the 32 column, so that's 32, plus a 1 for the 16 column, so 32 plus 16, that's 48, plus 8, that's 56, plus 4, that's 60, plus 1, and so that's going to be 61. Now 1 plus 5 is 6, 4 plus 6 is 10, so we get 106. Now we have a 64 plus a 32, so that's 96. 96 plus 8 is 104. 104 plus 2 is 106. And so our answer is indeed correct. So this is the final answer right here. 1101010. Now let's move on to our next topic, that is how to subtract binary numbers. So let's start with this. What is 1 minus 0? 1 minus 0 is simply 1. Now what about 1 minus 1? 1 minus 1, they cancel and that's 0. Now what if you have 1, 0, but you wish to subtract it by 1? What will you do? Now 1, 0 as a binary number is equivalent to 2 in the decimal system. And 1 is just 1 in the decimal system. So 2 minus 1 should give us an answer of 1. Now, we can't do 0 minus 1 because that's going to give us a negative number. So we need to borrow. So we're going to borrow this 1. That's going to turn into a 0. And then this 0 becomes a 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. And 0 minus nothing is 0. So 0, 1 corresponds to 1. Now, what if we have this situation? Let's say it's 1, 0, 0 minus 1, 0. Now this column is for the 1s, 2, and 4. So 1, 0, 0 is basically 4, and 1, 0 is 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. So this is the answer we should get. Starting with the first column, 0 minus 0 is 0. Now 0 minus 1, we can't do that, so we need to borrow a 1. So that's going to disappear. That's going to change to 0, and this becomes a 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. And you could bring the 0 down if you want to. 0, 1, 0 has the decimal equivalent of 2. So this answer is correct. Now let's try this one. 1, 0, 0 minus 1. Go ahead and subtract those two binary numbers. So we can't do the first column. 0 minus 1 will give us a negative number, so we need to borrow a 1. Now we can't borrow anything from this column because it's a 0. So we need to borrow a 1 from a column that has a 1. So this becomes a 0, and this column becomes a 2. So anytime you cross out a 0, replace it with a 2. It's going to work if you do it that way. Now we still need something in this column. So let's borrow a 1 from the 2. So this becomes a 1, and this becomes a 2. Now we can subtract. So 2 minus 1 will give you 1. And then you can bring down the 1 here because there's nothing to subtract it. 1 minus 0 will be 1. And you can bring down the 0 as well. Now let's check the work. So 1, 0, 0 as a binary number has a decimal equivalent of 4. And here we just have 1. So 4 minus 1 is 3. Now looking at this number, this is 1, 2, 4. So we have a 1 with the 2 and 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. And so that tells us that we do have the right answer.